You're listening to the Infinite Banking Mastery Podcast. Did you know that you could build a tax-free pool of wealth that's liquid and accessible all your life while building your retirement nest egg? Gain full control of your financial future and stop relying on the government and banks. The wealthy have already discovered this wealth-building secret. Now it's your turn to get financially secure without following the conventional wisdom that keeps you in debt to banks. Now here's your host, Valerie LaRocque.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Infinite Banking Mastery Podcast. Thank you for being here once again. I hope you had a great week. I wanted to talk again today about disability coverage. I know this is not necessarily an infinite banking topic, but I do find it to be very important to your overall plan so that you're able to maintain your lifestyle, or at least a sort of your lifestyle. I'm sure you're still going to not have as much income as you normally would if you were working. But it will help you, hopefully, not to go into massive debt or bankruptcy due to a medical reason or an illness, a major illness. But one thing I think that confuses people a lot is the difference between short-term disability and long-term disability. Oftentimes I'll be talking to someone and they'll say, oh yeah, I have that coverage. I have disability coverage at work and I'm sure I'm totally covered. And oftentimes they don't really know what they have at work or what type of coverage it is and how much it covers and how long it would cover if something was to happen. So I wanted to go over just in a quick little episode, the difference between short-term disability and long-term disability. Now, this conversation, I'm sure, could get quite longer and deeper, but I wanted to give you a general overview of the differences. So a short-term disability policy, that type of coverage usually pays for things that are off the job, accidents or illnesses. Not usually things that happen on the job where workman's comp would cover, but things that happen while you're not at work. And how much does it typically pay? Well, short-term and long-term actually both typically pay or can pay up to 60% of your income that you're used to bringing home. So it doesn't mean that it always covers that amount. You'll need to check out your policy and see what it covers or see your work benefits and see what the actual coverage is. It's not always 60. Oftentimes it's less than 60. So then the benefit period. What is the benefit period? What that is the period of time that you will receive your benefit. So the benefit period for a short-term disability policy typically is around 3 to 6 months long. The max is out more or less around a year. It doesn't usually go longer than a year. So it's just for those short-term things that happen, although it doesn't cover for things like a cold or the flu. Some of the types of things that you can claim or usually receive your short-term disability claim for would be something like pregnancy complications, a severe illness, a severe injury. Maybe you have a long recovery period after surgery, mental health issues or leave for mental health. Back and joint disorders can be another common reason. And fractures and broken bones. So you break your bone, break your leg or something, you can't work, and you're gone for a while, then your short-term disability would kick in and start paying you weekly, usually, so that you still have income coming in and can pay your regular bills. Elimination period, that is some more common verbiage with disability policies. And what that means is how long do you have to be unable to work due to a sickness or injury before your policy will kick in and start. So the elimination period for short-term policies is typically around 7 to 30 days. That's how long of amount of time that you would have to not be able to work before they would consider you disabled or have a short-term disability and need your benefit to kick in. Another very important thing that I think a lot of people don't know about disability coverage from their employer is that if your employer is paying the premium, paying the cost of those benefits, is giving it to you as a benefit maybe, and so they're paying the cost, and you're paying some of that or none of that, those benefits will be taxable to you. Certainly, if your employer is paying for all of the cost, all of the premium payment for that benefit, then the benefits, if you were to need them and claim disability, would be taxable to you. So for example, if you were on disability, something happened and you were able to claim disability and now you're trying to get your disability check coming to you, and you believed it was 60% of your income that you would be receiving. But if your employer had paid for the benefits, paid the premium all along, then you would only receive 60% minus the tax, because those benefits will be taxable if your employer is paying. Now, if you were the one paying for your benefits, if you were the one paying the premium all along on your group disability benefits through your work for your long-term disability, and then you were to need to make a claim, you would not have to pay any tax on that benefit coming to you. It would be tax-free coming to you. And that works the same for long-term disability. The same rules apply. If your employer is paying, the benefit will be taxable to you. If you're the one paying for the insurance or the coverage, you will not have to pay tax. So now let's move on to long-term disability and some features of that coverage. Same as short-term disability, you can get up to about 60% of your salary or your income covered. Doesn't mean that that is your coverage if you have it through your work plan. If you're trying to close the gap individually or with an individual plan to maybe close the gap of what you have at work and what you're able to qualify for, then you can certainly try to get to that 60%. You might be able to get slightly over 60%. Regarding the benefit period, remember that short-term disability policies come with a benefit period of about 3 to 6 months or up to a year. That just means if you need the coverage, that's how long you would be able to receive that payment. The benefit period for long-term disability, you have more options there, especially if you're purchasing an individual disability policy, then you have those options. With group disability policies from your workplace, you don't tend to have many options there. So some options for long-term disability on the benefit period would be that you could be covered up to retirement age, up to age 65, 67, maybe 70. Different companies may have different maximums for how long you can have that coverage, but they go for many years. You could be 30 and have a disability policy and have it pay you till you're 70. Check every single month coming to you, income tax free if you're purchasing that policy yourself. You also can choose different benefit periods, shorter ones, 5-year benefit periods, 10-year benefit periods. The longer the benefit period, the more expensive the coverage will be, obviously, because they have a risk for you for having to pay you for a longer period of time. Some of the most common reasons for someone claiming disability with the long-term care policy: musculoskeletal disorders, such as different types of arthritis, are one of the highest reasons that people go on claim. Musculoskeletal disorders can affect your muscles, bones, and joints. I hope I'm saying that word right. It's definitely a tongue twister. Another top reason would be cancer. We know so many people, all of us, who have had a bout with cancer. Just terrible. Another top issue, mental health issues. I mean, with certain policies, you could be too depressed to work. It could happen. You do have to have a doctor backing you up, doctor's information, notes. They will request records, all sorts of things. Of course, because you could get coverage for being too depressed to work, they are very strict. They are really paying attention. They are very thorough when completing underwriting for disability, and they will get, if they see anything like that, they will request records, and sometimes they could exclude something like that if you've already dealt with depression or dealt with anxiety, things like that. If there's already some mental health issues that you're struggling with or any kind of issue, it is something that could be excluded from an individual long-term care policy when you're applying, because they're insuring for things that have not happened, not things that are happening or that you're enduring right now that you're dealing with. A lot of people think, oh, I'm starting to feel bad, or I'm starting to see that I could need disability. Maybe I should go get it. Well, right when you think you need it, that's when you can't get it anymore, or at least maybe the particular condition that you're concerned about may not be covered. They may exclude it. Of course, I always say, even if you're concerned about something being excluded or you go through underwriting and something is excluded, that's certainly not a reason to not take the coverage. That one thing that you think will be the reason you go on disability. There is a world of reasons that could cause you to go onto a disability policy or need to claim. And it may not be the reason you think it might be, and oftentimes it's not. And even sometimes when there's an exclusion, sometimes an underwriter will allow the policy to be reviewed in the future and maybe even have that exclusion dropped off. So you never know if that may be a possibility as well. I definitely think it's very important. I have 5 disability policies, and I wouldn't cross the street without them. There's lots of different tweaks that can be made to a policy so that it fits your budget and fits your needs. But yes, typically 90 days for a long-term disability policy and individual policy. There's also some different riders that can be added similar to life insurance policies. That will be a discussion for a later time. But there are some different riders that are really cool, such as being able to have the ability to increase your long-term disability coverage in the future without any health underwriting, only having to prove your income has gone up. And so that's kind of a cool feature. I like that feature. Also, a lot of times people will get long-term disability coverage in place and think, I'm good, that's all I need, I'm good to go. But then their income increases year after year or into the future, and their disability insurance does not increase. So it may be a good idea to revisit what you have. That's one reason why I have 5 disability policies, because as my income increased, I layered on another policy to close the gap of coverage so that I could be coveraged at my max going forward as my income increased. I don't want to be thinking I'm totally covered and then something happens and I'm getting way less than 60% of my income. So it's a good idea to just layer those policies on as needed throughout your life to make sure that you're able to receive at least the 60%, because we're still lacking 40%. So I'm really going to want the 60, the full 60 if I can, if I were to become disabled or have a disability for a period of time, which hopefully never happens. Of course, we hope none of this ever happens and we never need our coverage, but I still want to have it in place to know that my family will be protected, we'll all be protected, and we'll still be able to live life during that difficult time of our lives. So if any of you would like to discuss this, if you have disability questions as well as questions on infinite banking or whole life policies, I would love to connect with you. Feel free to reach out to me at Valerie@alphaomegawealth.com. I would love to connect with you. And one thing I wanted to mention as well is that some of you have reached out, and I usually reply pretty quickly, at least same day usually. And then sometimes I don't hear back, and I just figure, well, maybe you just don't want to chat anymore, and that's perfectly fine. But I just wanted to point out that every so often, I know that emails can go into the spam folder. So if you've sent me an email and I did not respond in a reasonable amount of time, or you don't think I've responded at all, check your spam folder. It might be in there. Anyhow, I hope you have a great upcoming week, and I look forward to talking to you again next time. Take care.
This is the podcastfactory.com.